Thank you so much for the invite. Thank you for having me here. I know it's the end of your day, so I will try to come in with a little bit of high energy to keep everybody moving forward. And thank you for spending the next 10 minutes with me talking about lunch, culture, and the future of work. I will say I could not have been set up better by what Olivia talked about with well-being, with joy, because that is going to roll right into what I want to talk about for the future of work and a little bit about culture. So yes, my name is Joe Fletcher. I am the head of creative at Argodesign in Amsterdam. We are a global product innovation company, work with a whole variety of clients, all the way from strategy and research through delivery. How I want to start this next few minutes off is asking a question to everybody in the room, everybody who's listening online. And that is, what are the rituals that bond us? As we've been working separate in the last year, and before that, when we were all working in offices back in 2018, 2019, it doesn't matter to me if you are in a corporate environment, doesn't matter if you're in a small studio. As I go through these slides and as I go through this talk, I want everybody just to think about that question. What are the rituals that bond us? Over the last year, since we have been in lockdown in a variety of forms, we have now been told that the future is flexible, that we are going to be able to work from any location. We are going to be able to work remote. It will be a promise that we had never seen before, that we never thought we could have before. And that offices will be these glorious open spaces that people will only need to come and use for collaboration and to develop innovative ideas. And now with this whole new form of working distributed and using our offices in different ways, this will completely reshape the way that we work. In fact, that's almost everything I have read. It has been about working remotely, collaborative spaces. It has been about the process, the logistics, the task management, the efficiency of people and teams. It is almost robotic in the way that we have approached this in order to get maximum efficiency in this new world that we will not go back from. And that's why I loved how Olivia set this up on the well-being, on the joy side. It rolls right in to the next few minutes because I think all of us know that great teams are not just great operations. They aren't just great process or task management, but great teams are the whole idea of how do you take individuals that you have and what do you do? What are the rituals that you do to turn them into teams and to create teams out of them? How do you create trust? How do you build bonds? And how do you do this as we look forward in this new way of working, in this office of the future, however you want to term this, in the next decade? I want to give you an example from our studio, and I'll share an example of something we lost. I'll talk about how we've been trying to get it back, and then come back and look for a little bit of inspiration from wherever we may find it in the audience. The lunch table. In our studio, before we got locked down, the lunch table was known as the great equalizer. In fact, it was several tables. It was a series of tables. But every day at a certain time, around 12 o'clock, 12:31, we would come together as a team and we would sit around these tables and have conversations. And it was the great equalizer because there was no hierarchy. There was no management. There wasn't talk about work. It was talk about people. It was talk about the individuals of this team so that you could get to know who your coworkers were. You could get to know what they cared about, what they would love, what they didn't like. And for as much as you can put corporate principles or your cultural principles on a wall, on a poster, on a website, it's the actions that make the difference. And this was the action that we had every day that took the individuals that we had and that bonded them together as a team. But then COVID hit. Then a year ago, this is what the studio started to look like. It was empty. This is a picture of me talking to one of our creative directors in the studio. And there was this great promise. People were very excited to work from home, right? You save your commute time. You don't have to, we're in Amsterdam. We don't have to bike through the rain and through the weather. But as all of that set in and we had this great joy of working from home for a few months, after a while, we started seeing this emptiness, this aloneness. And I use this photo because I felt it reflected that emptiness that we started to feel as we sat alone in our houses all day, just communicating to each other in little boxes on Zoom or Google Meet. And we started asking ourselves, what is our replacement now for the lunch table? How do we move away from becoming robotic to recreating the bonds that we had, especially when somebody new comes in? How do we teach them about the culture? How do we teach them who we are beyond just here's the tasks that you have? And we tried so much in this last year. When we could go outside, we tried geocaching. We tried having drinks or having snacks outside. We even had a wedding outside as much as we could. When we could be inside, we would host small workshops and small events that we could get together with. As I said, we loved lunch. The lunch table was this moment, this bonding point. So we started sharing our lunches every day over Slack or over email, whatever we could. We got caught up in the bread baking revolution. We started sharing all of that. And this came just every day. We started doing video games and trying to play video games to recreate that connection. We even started hosting dinners at each other's houses where we could come back over food and try to connect again. But for all of that, for everything that we could do, it felt like there was still a missing moment. It wasn't the same thing that we had. And for us, that lunch table that we had, it is still an element that we have not been able to recreate. And as I go back to that intro where we've talked about flexible working, we've talked about remote working, working from anywhere, we've talked about the new form of offices in so many articles and YouTube videos. To me, it comes back to culture. How are you creating the culture that you want and the culture that you love? Working from anywhere is great, but if all you're doing is cranking out tasks, I don't see that as a successful team. I see a successful team as one that bonds and ones that care about each other. So for that, I come back to what I opened with. And that same question to ask everybody here. Looking forward as you how you're going to work, as you rethink your process, your logistics, your operations, your JIRA tasks, whatever it may be, as you think about remote work, as you think about offices, I don't want anybody to forget what are the rituals that you are going to create in this new world that is going to bond you, that is going to bond your team. We are still working on ours. We are still looking for ours, but I hope that shared a little bit of what we were trying to do. With that, I will say thank you so much. If you want to find me, if you want to continue the conversation, because I would love it. I would love to hear what other people are doing out there. You can find me on Substack. I write a weekly article. You can find me on Twitter, or you can jump on Clubhouse and we can host a room having a much longer conversation about this. So thank you so much for the invite. Thank you so much for letting me almost close out your day, and I will hand it right back over.